ACC football starts up again this weekend, and some of these hot takes are kind of scorching.
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Shout out to the everydayers for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Ultimate College Football HC. It's a new mobile game. It's completely free, has no ads, and 100% playable offline. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Begin your coaching legacy today. On this episode of Locked On ACC, Paul Finebaum, the more you hate him, the stronger he gets, which maybe is a lesson out there to the Florida State fan base who keeps going after Paul. Paul had a response, all right? We're going to talk about who are allegedly the most overrated teams in the ACC heading into this year, but Kenton, Gibbs, I want to start out with our hottest ACC preseason takes now that we're just a few days away from the season opening up in Ireland. Can you give me a scorcher to start things off?
Oh, I'm gonna come with some fastballs here. I'm gonna come give me the Edwin Diaz closer music because we just starting, but I need the horns to blow before I get going with this one. There will be at minimum 2, very likely 3 former Coastal coaches that will not be head coaches in the ACC at the start of the 2025 football season. I am willing to put anything on that. 2 that's a lock. That's a guarantee. I'm sure it's the sunrise on the east and sets on the west. 2 of these guys are going. But there's a third in the mist that I'm watching, and the names that I have on watch. There are 4 guys that I have on watch, okay? And the names are going to get progressively hotter. Number 1, the guy that we all know is a lame duck coach. He's as good as out the door. He's got 1 foot in the grave, the other foot on Indeed, trying to see where his next job is going to be. Tony Elliott. That Virginia program looks like a rudderless ship. The way in which Pry is now bringing back Virginia Tech into relevance is terrifying. It should be terrifying to the Cavalier faithful. I get it. You're a basketball school, but damn, pinch them, fight back, do something on the football field. So Tony Elliott is number 1. Number 2, it hurts my heart to say this, man, because and it genuinely does hurt my heart because I know everybody's going to say, "Oh, Ken, you want to take a shot at him anytime you can." William Mack Brown. Let me tell you something about William. William's just a soft man that runs a soft program. They're a soft group over there, okay? But more importantly than that, he's ancient. It's time. I get it. He's got a great personality. He's got a great, like the whole CEO thing and all that. He's got that going for him. It's 2024. You can't have a figurehead running your program anymore. You need somebody that's going to be of substance, driving this thing in a specific direction. And what direction are they driving right now? I'll leave that to the crowd to answer. The last 2, these are the hottest of the hot. First one, the last man to ever win an ACC championship as a Coastal head coach, Pat Narduzzi. I love you, baby. I love you. Love me some Narduzzi. If they have a season comparable to last year, yeesh. You got some of your stars leaving the program saying, "I don't think I can win here." Yeesh. You're going to have a problem trying to come back again if you're producing another 4-8, 3-9 type season. I'm not sure that he will, but I'm just saying if he does, that'll be the situation. Last but not least, the hottest of them all, Donno, I love you. But Cristobal, if he goes 6-6 or worse, that man is gone. Really, I think 7-5, he's out of there. I think if he goes 7-5, maybe 8-5 with a bowl win, he might save himself with a bowl win, maybe on the 7-win season. There's no way you bring him back if he goes 7-6, 6-7, anything like that. There's no way, because that shows you with this collection of talent, if the best you can get is 6, hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, because Miami is a school of great expectations.
If Mario Cristobal goes 6-6 this year with that talent and with that schedule, you may not have to fire him because he might resign. Like, seriously, like he loves the University of Miami. If he can't get the ship righted with this talent that they have and a schedule that doesn't include Clemson or NC State this year, if they can't win more than 6 or 7 games, then he may make that decision for himself. That may not be have to. So I kind of disagree on how hot the seat is. But again, it would take something catastrophic. Like, it would take a 6-6 type of season, I think, for that to even be a consideration, because he's entering the 3rd year of a 10-year contract. And they gave him that 10-year deal with the understanding that, he wanted to tear it down to build it back up. So there's going to be a certain amount of patience there. But if the season is really, really bad, then yeah, all bets are off. All conversations are open. I'll give you my hot take though, Kenton, and this is relating to ACC coaching. I think Rhett Lashley at SMU, I think he's going to win ACC Coach of the Year this year. I don't think he's going to get fired. I think quite the opposite. I think he's going to win ACC Coach of the Year because I'm thinking about it. The situation that Rhett is in, first time Power 4 head coach now, so he's stepping into the big league. So I think they're going to grade him on the curve. And talk about easy schedules. Like, SMU has a, Power 4 standards. They got a cupcake of a schedule this year. Yeah. If he can win 8 or probably 9 games with that SMU team, if they're scoring a lot of touchdowns and it's a crowd-pleasing thing to watch SMU on TV, which I think it will be because they have a lot of talent on that offense, they win 9 games this year. I think Rhett Lashley's going to get graded on the curve. What a great story. First-time Power 4 head coach, and he's going to become the Cinderella and win ACC Coach of the Year this year.
That's very possible. And I'll tell you what, if he wins Coach of the Year, I would argue, even though he's not a former Coastal coach, he could be part of the contingent that's no longer with the ACC in 2024. Because every big school that is looking to get rid of their head coach is going to come knocking, saying, hey, Mr. Lashley, come give us the sauce. Come give us the sauce on how to do it, how to build up a team like that. And there are multiple teams that are not necessarily in bigger conferences, but are in they're better seated to where if they're good, there's more upside than there is with SMU. And that's no disrespect to SMU. I actually would love to be proven wrong. Y'all know how much I love Dallas. Y'all know how much I love SMU. If y'all prove me wrong and show me, hey, when we're good, we do it better than anybody. I'd love to see it. But the perception right now, and what I believe about this team, and again, not saying that I'm infallible and can't be wrong here, it doesn't have the prestige of certain other jobs that will very likely be open to Rhett if he has that ACC Coach of the Year in his first year in the conference.
Well, when we come back, I want to talk about an extremely hot ACC take that was made by Dennis Dodd of CBS. And if this one comes true, Kenton, we're going to be doing some crazy shows in a handful of months. If this hot take, he called it a bold prediction, I'm calling it a hot take. But if this comes true, this is going to turn the ACC upside down. You want to keep it locked right here, my friends. We're only getting started on this brand new episode of Locked On ACC. And we're only getting started on the Ibotta app. Guys, we're saving so much money through cashback on this amazing app. It's summertime, which means it's barbecue season. Stock up on all your grilling favorites and earn cash back on every purchase when you use Ibotta. So you won't have to choose between burgers or hot dogs. You can get them both. Ibotta is a free app that lets you earn cash back every time you shop. Earn on hundreds of items from groceries to beauty supplies, even toys. So you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average Ibotta user earns $256 per year. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip, that flight you've been eyeing, or that fancy dinner you've been craving. Other apps give you points that don't amount to much, but with Ibotta, you earn cash back that you can withdraw to your bank account, PayPal, or gift card. Simply add offers in the app, upload your receipt, and voila, the money is yours. It's time you join the over 50 million users who use Ibotta to earn cash back every time they shop. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta by using the code LOCKEDONCollege when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back and use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store and use code LOCKEDONCollege. Thank you so much for making this episode of Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. I hope you checked out our big ACC conference preview. Put a lot of work into this one. We got so many of the great hosts around the network on with us to predict their teams and to predict the big picture in the Atlantic Coast Conference. I think most people were predicting Florida State to win the ACC, but we did have a few regionalized or some homer picks in there, so we had a great time. Check out the Locked On ACC, big ACC preview. Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack is with me. I am Alex Donno from Locked On Canes. So, Kenton, I was looking at this article at cbssports.com. ACC expert picks, most overrated and underrated teams, projected order of finish, and bold predictions. Now, one of these bold predictions caught my attention here, Kenton. Dennis Dodd from CBS Sports said, in February, ESPN will exercise its option not to extend the ACC contract beyond 2027. Florida State, having played the long game, he says, will have its out and be able to put itself on the market. FSU will do so at a much reduced rate to get out of the grant of rights since it will only have 3 years left to run. Don't ask me where FSU goes, he says, but if it's as free agent beginning, if it's as a free agent beginning in 2028, there will be Power 4 interest, he says. Basically, the next round of major realignment begins less than a month after the 2025 championship game. Buckle up. So Dodd thinks ESPN's going to blow it up.
More power to him. I'm very interested to see how this takes on, because even with that, wouldn't that still have them leaving in 20? Wait, so they pay less to still leave earlier is what I imagine would be the case. Okay. Yeah. So with that being said, I think this is a very interesting prediction. I'm gonna say it's hard to envision a world where I see that happening, because again, I don't know too many companies that get out of deals in which they're winning, in which you look at the deal and you say, who's getting the better end of the deal, and it's you by a good, fair margin. I don't see too many worlds where you cut that deal, but I mean, hey, more power to him. You know, if this ends up shaking out the way that he says, congratulations, Knowles faithful. You were wrong. Donno and I were – I mean, you were right. Donno and I were wrong and dumb, like you've been telling us since the beginning of this thing. Hey, I accept it. I own it, okay? I'm never going to shy away from being wrong. Yeah, there's Nat that's flying around the room right now is trying to be a paid actor, maybe buzzing in my ear telling me I'm wrong. But I'll tell you what, in all seriousness, that is a very high prediction, not just because of the ramifications, not just because of the likelihood or the unlikelihood of ESPN blowing it up, but I also think that in the landscape of college football in 10 to 15 years, and we look back at the pivotal moments, when we look back at how all the dominoes fell, ESPN not renewing will be one of the greatest dominoes, because I know for a fact the ACC will sue ESPN immediately. And we know Disney don't play about those lawsuits, a la the guy who they're telling you can't sue because we poisoned your wife with something she was allergic to because you signed up for that free trial of Disney Plus back in 2019.
Yeah, that was crazy.
I'm very intrigued to see how that would play out in court.
You know, it's hard for me to imagine ESPN just saying we're getting completely out of the ACC business.
Yeah.
Like I could see them opting out if it's just to alter the deal for different terms. Like I could see that happening. And then we're going to have the question of if ESPN were to actually want to do that, to exercise their right to opt out because they want to renegotiate a deal, then it's up to the courts to decide, is there still a valid grant of rights? Because
I mean, that's
one of those sticking points.
My thing is this. Look at what the ACC is getting paid in comparison to everybody else. How much more could ESPN possibly want to get out of the deal? How much more juice can you squeeze before it's not necessarily worth the squeeze and you risk pushing your two big dogs out in Clemson and Florida State because they're already looking to leave, and you potentially give them an out to then go to Fox, your competitor?
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I've been wrong before. I've seen some things where I didn't quite understand all of the legalese and all that. I just don't see a world where this one shakes out in the way that many think it will.
So here's who the CBS experts think are the most overrated teams. This first one, this was predicted by Dennis Dodd, Jerry Palm, and Shehan Jayaraja. They all say, all three of these, there's a few other nominations from different folks on the CBS network, but those three say Clemson is going to be the most overrated team. They say the Tigers made the drop from underwhelming to legitimately mediocre one season ago, ultimately losing 3 games to unranked opponents and finishing 4-4 in conference play for the first time since 2010. The Tigers are still one of the most talented teams in the league, but how much production can Clemson lose and still maintain? The defense typically replaces well, but the Tigers lost 5 starters to the NFL draft and safety Andrew Makuba to the transfer portal. The offense was a mess last year and will have to move forward without running back Will Shipley. If this team didn't don the orange and purple, no one would confuse them for an ACC title contender, they say. So, and Kenton, one thing I noticed was when we did our big ACC preview, I think the two fan bases that were the most unhappy with us and the collection of people we had with us were Florida State fans, because they're always unhappy. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. And there were some Clemson fans who were not happy that we didn't give their team enough. I think they were mostly angry at you, though, Kenton.
Don't care. So sad. Too bad. Prove me wrong. Cope and seed. Cope and seed. Here's the thing, right? If I am proven wrong, I will come on air and I'll say I'm sorry. Hey.
Yeah. You
Dabo,
will. I know
you're the guy. Dabo, you the guy. If he comes out and puts together a 12-win, hey, we're going back to the playoff. We're going to win the ACC going away. Even if we lose the ACC championship, we've done enough. We beat Georgia game 1. Hey, I'll shut up. I'll say, you know what? Dabo has earned a level of trust and belief from me that I'm going to just hush when it comes to Dabo from now on. He has not done that. Because, again, it's not about whether or not I believe Dabo is a good coach or capable of winning. That's not the question. It's, is Dabo capable of winning in the transfer portal era? That has not been shown. And to me, if that has not been shown by this point, I would say it has been shown, and the answer is no. It's like the question of, we've been together for about 3 years now, but I'm not sure if she really loves me and likes me. If you've been together that long and you don't know, I have bad news for you, friend. I have terrible news for you. So in all reality, Clemson fans, be mad at me. That's fine. At the end of the day, the ball will be put down. The ball will be put down. And a little shameless plug for our show here, the first edition of He Said, She Said, The Fans Said is coming up with our first week, starting with Florida State and Georgia Tech. It's coming up. So y'all will get the chance to show me and Donno that y'all have more ball knowledge than us two. Y'all will for sure have the chance.
So here are the other picks for most overrated team. This was interesting. Tom Fornelli actually went with Georgia Tech. It's like, who's overrating Georgia Tech? Like, most people have them kind of in the middle.
In the middle at best. Some people got them still hanging out in the back. Georgia Tech is like the reverse of Virginia Tech. It's like how Virginia Tech, most people have them in the middle, slightly trending upward. Georgia Tech is like in the middle or back. Like, nobody's like, hey, I'm super high on them. I could see them finishing as high as 3rd. Nobody's saying that. We all love Haynes King. We all love Haynes, the running back. We all love that wide receiving group that they got some ball players on the outside. That defense would terrify anybody in terms of picking them. That defense would if somebody told me, Ken, your mom's life is on the line, you got to pick Georgia Tech in this game against Florida State, I would simply say, can I get a lifeline before I make this decision? Even though I know there's no decision to make, I would use the lifeline to call my mom and tell her we had a good run. You had a great life. It's been amazing. And I'll see you on the other side, sister. That would be the end of it. That would be because I don't trust that defense at all. So I'm surprised that anybody is saying Georgia Tech is overrated.
Now, since you brought up that Georgia Tech Florida State game, can I give you the degenerate stat of the day, Kenton, the trend that we've been seeing this week? So heading into that Georgia Tech Florida State game this Saturday in Ireland, Florida State, when the line opened, were 13-point favorites in most places. The sharp money, like the big ballers and the professional gamblers, most of the sharp money is actually coming in on Georgia Tech against the spread. So much so that they've moved the line from 13 to 11.5, even 10.5 in some places, Kenton. So, and the thing people have to remember is that doesn't necessarily mean they think Georgia Tech's going to win the game. It just means they thought 13 points was way too big of a spread. So, and oftentimes the sharps know things that the rest of us don't.
Get paid. Go get paid. I'm telling you right now, the sharps do know things that we don't a lot, but sometimes they throw you a bone. They throw you a blessing from the heavens. I told people years ago, I believe NC State's over on wins was like 5.5 or something like that, and they went on to win 9 games. I told everybody, hammer it over. I am telling you right now, I know that Locked On College Football Live has not returned. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. But we have a level 10 lock right now. If they're giving you 10.5, you better add it to your parlays. You bet that single game. You take that bet every single day of the week. 10.5. A team that loves running the ball is returning multiple prolific running backs and a seasoned offensive line against a team that was literally providing running backs with escort service to the end zone. A team that their only highlight of the year against the run that is remembered in the minds of ACC fans is because some slap-you-know-what decided to not kneel and their running back didn't even fumble. It wasn't a fumble.
It was a bad referee call on top of a bad coaching call.
It was bad squared. It took bad squared to get Georgia Tech to good. You multiply negative by negative, you get a positive. I don't believe that you should be betting on Georgia Tech here for this 10.5. Again, if Key and company prove me wrong, I'll come on there and I'll say, I was unfamiliar with your game. But I believe I'm very familiar, and I believe that Tofili is going to get very familiar with the end zone in Ireland.
Yeah, it's weird because, obviously, if I try to hit confirm on a bet for Florida State, it makes my fingers hurt. It's a very difficult thing for me to do. But at the same time, it's like if I thought minus 13 was a little bit too big of a line, now that I can get it at minus 10.5, I'm very tempted, Kenton, to lock that one in.
Donno, let me tell you something. You know how I feel about the Dirty Foot Club, but if I saw them opening at 10.5 or something like that against the Island of Misfit Toys Community College of Central Delta Valley State, give me the money. Take me. I will bet. Hey, I'm not rooting for you. I'm just rooting for the other team to lose by a lot. All right, y'all have fun. Everybody have fun.
Now, here's someone who I don't think is going to bet on Florida State this weekend because he's not too happy with Florida State fans. You will not believe what Paul Finebaum said this time, or maybe you will believe it. You want to keep it locked right here on this brand new episode of Locked On ACC. Absolutely thrilled to welcome a new member of the Locked On College Sports family. I'm so excited that Ultimate College Football HC is now with us. Guys, I want to give you a heads up on this brand new mobile game that I think you're going to love as much as I do. I've been playing it now, Ultimate College Football HC. In this amazing game and simulation, you get to step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football team to glory. Can you imagine being the head coach of your favorite ACC team? From recruiting players and hiring coaching staff to overseeing training camps and handling school scholarships, you control every crucial detail of your program. It's all in your hands. Will you be able to handle the pressure? Guys, this reminds me of there's a European soccer game that's like this Football Manager. This is like that for college football fans. I love it. Here's what I really love about the game. You're responsible for calling offensive plays during the games. Your strategy will not only determine the success of your football season, but shape the future and the legacy of your program. Ultimate College Football HC is completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline. You can play on the go as you want and when you want to. And of course, we have a special offer for Locked On ACC fans. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Make sure you take advantage of this perk as it will get your team off to a strong start. To download the game, visit ultimate-cfb.com or look it up in the App Store. Ultimate College Football HC. Begin your coaching legacy today. Thank you so much for making this episode of Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. We talked late last week about Paul Finebaum saying Florida State not only didn't belong in the top 25, or not only didn't they belong in the top 10, they're currently number 10 in the AP, but they don't even belong in the top 25. According to Paul Finebaum. And he also threw a jab about all the crying that they did after the college football playoff snub. So Finebaum, as you can imagine, has been hearing it from Florida State fans for the past week. I mean, it's been months since Kirk Herbstreit criticized them, and they haven't let him hear the end. So they're not going to let Finebaum off the hook anytime soon. So he said on Greg McElroy's morning show, one thing I've determined, even more so than Florida State's team being overvalued, the pettiness of the Florida State fans never ceases to amaze me. He said, every year, Finebaum said, I try to decide who has the most thin-skinned, insecure fan base in the country. And right now, at least going into week 0, I think it's Florida State. I hope their fans enjoy their trip to Dublin, maybe have a couple of pops of that Irish brew because they need to chill out, he said. He continued, this fan base, after that pathetic performance last year, the crying and the Twitter attacking on anyone on TV or in the media who dared to go against them, still hasn't recovered. And that was my whole point. He said, I was joking, of course, that they're probably still worn out from all the trail of tears from not making the playoffs. I just found the whole thing laughable. Their quarterback was out, so they didn't have the same team. Their schedule wasn't very good. And besides that, they played in the ACC. So he's taking shots at the ACC as well. The argument I never really heard convincingly was that Georgia deserved to be ahead of them. Forget Alabama. They earned their way in, but Georgia was better than Florida State, Finebaum said. So, wow. He's going in still.
Again, at some point in time, the games have to matter. They have to matter. The games have to mean something. You cannot just say, hey, you're in a better conference, therefore you can lose 3 to 4 games, 2 to 3 games, and you're better than a team who was undefeated over here, because now you're playing a hypothetical game of ifs and buts. I am sorry that the college football world has shaken out the way it has, to where we have these 2 Power 2 conferences and everybody else is kind of bringing up the rear. But the reality is the games still have to matter at some point in time. That still has to be an important factor at some point in time. So, sure, you can say Georgia was the best team or they were the better team, whatever the case may be. Sure. Did they win? Did they go undefeated? Did they do what they're supposed to do? It does not matter what these teams are ranked or what these teams are supposed to be or what the eye test looks like when this team's rolling at their highest clip. Was their highest clip enough to win every game? All right, then. So, with that in mind, again, Paul Finebaum grows from your hatred. He grows from your anger. For those of you who have not seen Justice League Unlimited, the episode with I believe it was Dove and Hawk or something like that, and there was they have like their powers like work together. They work in unison or whatever the case may be, and they were basically at a place where there was 2 warring factions on the north and south side of the same country that fell into a civil war. Long story short, Ares was like the protagonist of this episode. He was growing from their hate. He was growing from the anger of both sides here. And I'm here to tell you, there's not an opposing side, but Paul Finebaum sure as hell does grow every time you comment, what a loser. That bald dork knows nothing. You know what the algorithm just said? Somebody cared enough to say something to him. Every time you watch, say, oh, let's see what Paul Finebaum has to say today. I've never watched the McElroy show ever, but I'm going to watch it today because he's talking about Florida State. Guess what just happened, friends? The algorithm just said, well, wait a minute. Paul Finebaum is good TV. Every time he's on, more people watch. You have to let the haters starve. Don't feed the trolls. I know, Florida State fans, y'all troll us a lot. Y'all talk to us crazy a lot. Guess what? We benefit from the same thing he does. If you want to starve out the trolls, if you think that me and Donno are trolling, starve us out. But then you know with me and Donno, if we say something, that's how we actually feel. So,
sure.
At the end of the day, you can keep feeding the Paul Finebaum troll all you want, but he's just going to get bigger. He is not going to leave from under that bridge if that's what you believe is going to happen.
That is well said. Awesome job as always by Kenton Gibbs. You can check him out, I should say, at Locked On Wolfpack. You can also check me out at Locked On Canes. And folks, we appreciate everyone's support. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit that like button. Subscribe to Locked On ACC. If you're listening to the audio version, make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your pods. And we'll talk to you again tomorrow on another episode of Locked On ACC, part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.